Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 20th of April of 2026. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous nights, during the previous 24 hours, we received lots of very interesting updates. And of course the most important update of the 20th of April of 2026 is the Ukrainian massive attack in the direction of the southern parts of Russia. The sources stated that the Ukrainians during the previous 24 hours used at least 180 drones to attack the territory of the Russian Federation, and as a result of this massive attack we received lots of updates from the city by the name of Tuapse. And this settlement is the Ukrainians attack this settlement for the second time, have attacked this settlement for the second time since the 16th of April of 2026. During the previous 24 hours we received lots of videos, and this is the first picture that was published during the previous night between the 19th and the 20th of April of 2026, and here we can see a huge fire over the city, over the refinery. And it seems that as a result of this attack, probably lots of facilities, lots of oil reservoirs were damaged or even destroyed. And these videos we received already this morning, where we can see how the special forces, special services of Russia were trying to stabilize the situation in this region. So I would like to remind you that 4 days ago the Ukrainians attacked the city of Tuapse, the Tuapse refinery, and we have already discussed the situation on the 16th of April of 2026, and this is the video that was published on the morning of the 16th of April, right after the end of the Ukrainian massive attack. During the previous attack, the Ukrainians also tried to damage some oil refineries, oil facilities, oil depots, reservoirs through this refinery, and as we can see on the 16th of April the Ukrainians managed to deal significant damage. And this is the satellite picture that we had on the 16th of April of 2026, and on the 20th of April of 2026 we received a satellite picture as well, this one. And from this perspective, from this satellite picture, we see that the Ukrainians at least destroyed this oil reservoir. We are talking about this one. So it seems that these big reservoirs were damaged or even destroyed by the Ukrainians as a result of attack. Another important update we received during the day, this one, and according to information we have, an oil spill with an area of 10 square kilometers has been detected in the Black Sea. According to reports, the oil products appeared after a drone attack on Krasnodar Krai on the night of April 16th. The spill is currently drifting towards the port, where 6 vessels are working to establish booms to contain the leak, but so far this not has been successful. Furthermore, we received the report that the state of Kazakhstan stopped oil export, most likely due to energy crisis that is currently taking place in the world, and probably due to significant problems in the southern part of Russia, because Kazakhstan exports its oil through the ports of Novorossiysk and Tuapse, and it seems that currently it's either impossible or very dangerous. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in Ukraine. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly through the entire line of combat contacts. And first, let's talk about the Sumy direction. The Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are about to improve their position significantly, or even to break through Ukraine's defense in the eastern Sumy direction. During the previous 24 hours, we received changes on the ground, and they're coming from the settlements, from the area of the settlement of Miropolsk. For example, these are the changes between the 19th and the 20th of April of 2026. The Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to take under complete control these forests, and the Russians continue advancing towards the settlement by the name of Prokhody. We believe that during this week, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm Russian control over this small village, and then the Russians will continue offensive operation further in the direction of the settlement of Turia. So now we see that the Russians are trying to establish control over the settlements of the second layer along the border between the Russian Federation and Ukraine in the eastern part. Furthermore, the Russians began attacking positions of the armored forces of Ukraine further in the western direction towards the roads of T-1901. In this video, we can see a temporary deployment point of the armored forces of Ukraine that was destroyed by aviation. So as you can see, the Russians are using not just sabotage and reconnaissance groups. The Russians intensify the usage of aviation, of heavy artillery systems, of infantry, and of course of vehicles. And the Russians are trying to establish certain FPV drone control over the main supply and logistic lines. In this video we can see how Ukrainians were trying to bring additional reinforcements and reserves in the direction of the settlement of Miropolye, but these vehicles were ambushed in this area and most likely they were stopped. So the Russians continue their Sumy offensive operations. As of now, it's unclear whether the Russians are planning to move in the direction of the city of Sumy itself with the purpose to encircle the settlement and to take the city of Sumy under complete control, or the Russians are going just to create a buffer zone, so to take under complete control the territory between the border and the city of Sumy, probably 10-20 kilometers or something like this. We can even calculate, so this is the 15 kilometers from the northern direction. So according to this buffer zone, the Russians most likely would try to take under complete control the second defense layer. As for the eastern direction, the 20 kilometers, 15-20 kilometers is something like this. So according to the preliminary plans of the Russian Federation, they may try to take under complete control the buffer zone, like 15-20 kilometers, and to approach the city of Sumy to this red line. So this might be the possible Russian buffer zone operation, or they will try to continue offensive operation further, but it seems that everything depends on the results, whether the Russians are able to take this red line with minimal losses, or it will be very difficult for them, and then they will be forced to stop due to counterattacks or activities of the armed force of Ukraine. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the city, in the direction of the city of Kharkiv, in the Kharkiv direction. During the previous night, the Russians attacked the locomotive depot, the Kharkiv locomotive depot, and as a result of attack, as you can see, several locomotives were damaged or even destroyed. This will probably cause significant problems to the Ukraine's logistics in this area, and the Russians are trying to do this with the purpose to reduce the Ukrainian logistic capabilities during the offensive operation that is currently taking place in the northeastern parts of Kharkiv region. As for the previous 24 hours, lots of explosions were recorded on the territory of the settlement of Veliki Burluk. A fire anomaly was recorded in the most central part of the settlement, right in the area of these barracks and these, let's say, facilities, which means that maybe the Ukrainians were using these buildings as ammo depots or something like this, and the Russians destroyed it. Furthermore, the Russians continue offensive operation towards the villages of Volokhnya, Karaichne, Bachkov, and Chaikovka. The Russians are attacking in this area from many directions, and the most important thing is that the Russians established complete FPV drone control over this territory, over the road between the settlement of Biely Kolodys and the front line. So, as you can see, the Ukrainians during the previous 24 hours were trying to bring additional forces in the direction of the line of combat contact, but the Russians established complete FPV drone control, and the Russians don't allow the Ukrainians to cross this area. And this is the main problem for the Ukrainians, because as you can see, this is the settlement of Biely Kolodys, and we can call the settlement of Biely Kolodys as the heart of the northeastern Kharkiv offensive operation. And the most important thing, that's between the settlement of Biely Kolodys and the line of combat contact, there are just fields and open space, open air, open space without a significant number of strongholds, and the most important, without significant number of natural barriers. But from the other side, when talking about the Russian Federation, they have the city of Volchansk, they have huge forests behind and around the city of Volchansk. The Russians have big forests that they're about to take along the border. So as you can see, when talking about the Russian side, they have lots of natural barriers, lots of strongholds, lots of positions that they can use both for accumulation of forces and for additional offensive actions. So which means that the Russians most likely control the initiative and hold the initiatives in their hands. Now let's move further. As for the Kupiansk direction, during the previous 24 hours, we haven't received almost anything but several important things. The Russians are bombing positions of the armed forces of Ukraine to the west of the city, probably preparing themselves before the beginning of a major offensive operation in the direction of Pechenegi water reservoir. Furthermore, we received a video from the eastern parts of the settlement of Kupiansk-Uzlovoy. We have already discussed this video, but this video is very important. This video confirmed that the Russians have their positions on the territory of the city, and there are very heavy clashes. In this video, we can see how the Russian soldier was trying to hide in this building, but then this building was under attack of Ukrainian forces. And then during the second parts of the video, we could see a short distance combat between the Russian soldier and the Ukrainians who were located here. So this video confirms that currently there are very heavy clashes for the settlement of Kupiansk-Zlavoy, and the Russians are trying to establish complete control over the territory. But from the other side, this video confirms that there are still positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in this area, and that the Ukrainians are trying to save control over this settlement and to force the Russians to fall back. So we see that currently there are very heavy clashes and combat of very high activities. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Slavian's direction. During the previous 24 hours, no changes were recorded, but the Russians are pushing the Ukrainians, and the sources are saying that currently there are very heavy clashes for the settlement of Alexandrovka. The Russians are trying to take under complete control the outskirts of the settlement and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. Furthermore, the Russians, it seems that in coming days, will improve their position significantly around the settlements of Krivoluk and Ozerne. Now the Russians are concentrated to establish complete control over this big forest between these two settlements, the forest that the Ukrainians use for their logistic, evacuation and rotation purposes. Furthermore, the Russians control the main logistic lines of the armed forces of Ukraine with FPV drones between the city of Slaviansk and the line of combat contact. Now let's talk about the Constantinovka direction. During the previous 24 hours, the biggest changes on the ground, it seems that were recorded right exactly in this area. So this is the end of the 19th of April, and this is the end of the 20th of April. The Russians took under complete control the territory to the south of N20 Road, this industrial facility. Now the Russians have possibilities to concentrate their troops in this area, and when the Russians concentrate a critical mass in the southern parts of Constantinovka, the Russians will continue offensive operation with the purpose to establish this control over this southern pocket. And this is going to be already up to 30% of the city of Constantinovka, and the Russians will continue offensive. The Ukrainians are saying that the concentration of Russian motorized rifles units around Constantinovka indicates the main directions of future assaults and is consistent with the statements that the Russian offensive remains focused primarily westward, bypassing the main defended areas. Another important updates are coming from the eastern parts of the city of Constantinovka. Here we have lots of videos published by pro-Ukrainian sources, how Ukrainians were attacking edge positions of stormtroopers of the Russian Federation in this area. One of the episodes took place right exactly in the eastern parts of the city, and the second one in the southern parts of the settlement of Novodmitrievka. So it seems that the eastern flank of the city of Constantinovka has collapsed, and the Russians continue offensive. This is a very important area, and the settlement of Novodmitrievka is very important, not just because of the battle for the city of Constantinovka, but if Russians are able to establish complete control over the settlement of Novodmitrievka like this one, using these roads of attacks, this will lead to the situation when the Ukrainians and the Ukrainian positions and the contingent of the armed forces of Ukraine, which is located in the area of the city of Chasiv, would be forced to begin the retreat and the evacuation operation. Because from these positions, and of course if Russians improve their positions in the area of Verolubovka, at least in its southeastern parts, the Russians will be able to semi-encircle the Ukrainians who are currently located in the area of the settlements of Nikolaevka, Podolska and Chervona. And from these two positions, Russians will establish complete FPV drone control over the settlement by the name of Stinky, and obviously the Ukrainians from this very moment will start suffering huge losses, and they would be forced to retreat towards more reliable positions, otherwise they would be encircled and completely exhausted. So it seems that now the Russians are trying to complete this battle to the north and the northeast of the city of Constantinovka with the purpose to improve their positions significantly before the beginning of the major parts of the battle for the city of Constantinovka itself and the beginning of the battle for the settlement of Alexeyevka-Drushkovka, which is located next to the settlement of Constantinovka in the northwestern direction. Now let's move further. As for the Dobropolye direction, small changes recorded in the area of the settlement of Grishina. We expect that in coming hours, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will confirm complete control over the settlement. During the previous 24 hours, lots of videos were published of how Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine with aviation. As for the Zaporozhye direction, during the previous 24 hours, lots of interesting updates were reported, but as we discussed during the previous videos, currently the most important clashes are taken between the settlements of Velika Mikhailovka, Gavrilovka and Pitgavrilovka. The Russians, as a result of fast lightning and unexpected attack that took place several days ago, managed to recapture the settlement of Alexandragrad across the river of Volcha, and now the Russians began assault operation towards the settlement by the name of Lisna. So it seems that currently the village of Lisna is already in the gray zone. This is not a very big village, but the most important value of this village is that the village located between two big forests between the settlements of Velika Mikhailovka and Pitgavrilovka. If Russians take under control these two forests, the forest of Novopavlovsky and the forest of Dibrovsky, and if Russians take under complete control the settlement of Lisnoye, we can say that the front line in the Dnipropetrovsk direction has collapsed, and the Ukrainians from this very moment would be forced to retreat further in the northwestern direction towards more reliable positions. But the question is, where are more reliable positions in this part of the front line? The group of forces east says on this matter that on the northern sector, the expansion of the control zone northwest of the village of Alexandragrad in the direction of the village of Lisnoye is ongoing. Artillery and FPV crews inflict damage on the Ukrainian positions and deployment areas in the areas of the villages of Tikha, Velika Mikhailovka, Kolomytsy and Alexandrovka. So the Russians are talking about this territory, Velika Mikhailovka, Gavrilovka and so on. As for the Orekhov direction, during the previous 24 hours, nothing special recorded. Probably several videos were published from the area of the city of Gulyai-Polya. If you remember, several days ago, the Russians concentrated their troops in this area during the Easter ceasefire, and the Ukrainians managed to discover the concentration of Russian vehicles on the territory of farms in the southeastern part of the settlement, and then the Ukrainians began bombing and attacking this territory, damaging the Russian vehicles and in the Russian warehouses and ammo depots. We have covered most of the updates regarding the situation in Ukraine. Just a few words about the situation in the Middle East. And the most important thing is that oil prices are rising. According to information we have, right after the oil markets opened, the oil prices rose till the level of almost $90 per barrel, at least for WTI. But later during the day we saw reports and we saw updates that oil prices began falling down, most likely under the pressure of the United States of America and under the pressure of different statements made by the President of the United States of America. The most important thing that tomorrow is deadline for the US-Iranian talks. The deadline expires in the evening of the 21st of April of 2026, in the evening of Tuesday, which means that right after this moment, most likely we'll see either the continuation of the negotiation process between the United States of America and Iran, or the beginning of the second phase of the military operation in this area. As of now, we know for sure that the US have already redeployed their government, their representatives on the territory of Istanbul. In this video we can see at least 6 US government aircraft carrying communications gear, motorcade equipment and support supplies have landed at the departed from the Pakistan Air Force base, and the US authorities, the US team is preparing itself before the beginning of the negotiation process. But the sources are saying that due to the blockade of the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians rejected to participate in this negotiation process. Iran does not currently plan to participate in further talks with Washington, according to state TV reports. But you know that something similar we saw during the previous negotiation process. Then the Iranians also rejected their participation in the negotiation process, but they came to Pakistan probably several hours before. So which means that as of now, these statements are just statements, and everything will be decided tomorrow, not today. But at the same time, the Iranian sources stated that the Iranians will soon respond and retaliate against the United States maritime robbery. And the Iranians are saying that during the previous 24 hours, according to information we have, according to different media, the US stopped the Iranian vessel that was moving through the Gulf of Oman, and this vessel was taken and arrested by the US authorities. And this is exactly exactly what the Iranians are talking about right now. So most likely tomorrow the Iranians will go to the negotiation process, but it seems that right before, several hours or right before the beginning of the negotiation process, the Iranians will probably strike back, and then they will go to the negotiation process, and it will be the ball will be on the side of the United States of America to accept the reality or to cancel the negotiation process due to something that is going to happen from the Iranian side within the next 24 hours. So everything is possible, so that's well, let's wait and see. As of the Monday of 20th of April 2026, we start receiving first surprising updates. According to information we have, the United Arab Emirates stated that it is time to think about closing the American bases as they are a burden and not a strategic asset. That was stated by the United Arab Emirates authorities. Also, they stated that in early talks with the United States of America, the United Arab Emirates, about securing emergency dollar access if the Iran conflict worsens. So this is another statement. Another important thing is that the United Arab Emirates and several Persian Gulf states considers to use Chinese yuan or other currencies for oil sales if it runs low on US dollars, according to reports. So lots of things may change, lots of things could change, of course, and all these things about dollar, about yuan in exchange for oil is the message from the United Arab Emirates, and the message sounds as following. Either the United States of America opens the Strait of Hormuz without any additional fees from the Iranian side, or we will start using Chinese yuan for oil sale on the global markets, which obviously will strengthen the position of the Chinese yuan, and of course will hit the position of the US dollar as the world global reserve currency. Another important thing is that during the previous 24 hours, the leader of China, Xi Jinping, spoke with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and called for the opening of the Strait of Hormuz for free navigation. So let's wait and see what is going to happen next, but it seems that there are still too many unresolved issues, and not just between the United States of America and Iran. We see that there are still unresolved issues between Israel and, of course, Lebanon, between Iraq and the United States of America, between Kurds and different parts of this region. For example, today we received reports that the United States of America has suspended all fundings and security coordination with Iraq's government and suspended dollar shipments to Iraq's central bank system. We have report that the United States of America urged the contractors and the civilians and military forces to evacuate the state of Iraq as soon as possible. This is a very, very dangerous signal. Furthermore, we received reports that the United States of America finished and left the state of Syria. Every single base of the United States of America was evacuated from this area. We see that the current positions of the United States of America, in the end, after they declared so many victories over the state of Iran, is not so strong as they used to be before the conflict started, which means that the United States of America most likely will try to fix this situation before finishing the conflict completely. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds to we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.